Hello everyone, this is Professor Smart. I wanted to take a few moments and go over the literacy narrative assignment with you. You need to go to the lesson 3, introducing the literacy narrative. Anytime we have an assignment each week, there is an introduction page to that lesson. So you want to make sure you read the entire thing, take notes, click on all of the links, and then you go down here to the bottom. But this is the first thing you need to do. This is your to-do list for this lesson. You need to read chapters 1 through 3 in Everybody's an Author. Then you need to read chapter 14, Here's What Happens When Writing a Narrative, and The First Day of School by Paloma Garcia. You want to make sure that you watch each of these videos. These are writers that talk about the impact that books or literacy had on them. Many of them, English was their second language growing up. Many of them grew up in disenfranchised homes, had really difficult home lives, and they talk about the role that books and literacy and writing played in their life. They didn't all have just this great relationship with books. It grew over time. But I think they're all super inspiring, and they'll give you things to think about with your own essays that you're considering writing. I also love this very last video. It's called Why Shakespeare. It's the American Shakespeare Company, and they did a video documentary of them many, many years ago, and it looks at students and these people that work in this community theater to where practicing Shakespeare literally changed their life. Anyway, I think these are all very inspirational, and I always encourage you all to go through and watch these videos. I put them in there for a reason. Sure, it might take a while, and you might be bored. You would rather be scrolling on social media, whatever, but really, you signed up for this course, so try to take advantage of every single element. Listen to what they have to say. I mean, they're pretty incredible, actually, so make sure you're doing all of this. You always need to be doing this stuff first. Then that's after you read all this stuff in here, too. You should read this. You should click on, take notes, take down what the actual final paper is supposed to be. I have models for you here based on this thesis. I have 7 student models. They're not necessarily perfect, and there's some problems with each one, but it gives you ideas and what students wrote for the class. Anyway, so make sure you're going through each lesson introduction, okay? Let me see here. Also, this is just me. This stuff goes so slow when I'm recording. See, whoops. This is just me. Is it going to take me to this other? So this is just me, but I would also go ahead and look at lesson 4 that talks about, you know, your final literacy narrative is going to be due on the 23rd. I also have a literacy narrative feedback quiz where I ask you your feedback about the assignment. Did you have enough material? Did you feel you had enough topic choices for the assignment? So all these things are coming up next week. Probably when I get these back on the 18th, within 2 days, hopefully maybe 3, I will have everything turned back to you and make comments on your rough draft. I think one person has already turned theirs in, so kudos to you for that. Maybe I'll try to look at that in the next day or so you can continue to work ahead. So very proud of that person. That's been sort of their MO for the entire semester. So anyway, so let's go back to this lesson introduction. I want to talk a little bit about literacy because I think most of us, the basic definition of literacy is defined as the ability to read and write at its most basic level. But I think literacy encompasses so much more. Just as we discussed with your list of lists, you bring a wealth of experience and knowledge for this course. For this assignment, we will look more closely at your past experiences with reading and writing. You will consider pivotal moments, challenges, and revelations. I want you to pay attention to these 3 words. These are the things you're going to focus on in your thesis statement and in your paragraphs, okay? They have shaped your relationship with words. By creating a literacy narrative, you will examine the significance of literacy in your life and explore the transformative power of language. For this assignment, you don't have to just explore an amazing experience with books. Talk about a difficult situation you had with books. Talk about a negative experience you had in school that influenced you. But anyway, I'm going to go through the assignment requirements. Your final paper is going to be 3 pages. It's okay if you go over that amount. That is just the minimum. It needs to be in MLA format. I have information about that in the next lesson if you don't know how to do MLA format. It needs to be in Times New Roman 12-point font or Arial 12-point font. MLA is double-spaced, 1-inch margins, last name and page number in the header, and your title needs to be something other than literacy narrative. It needs to reflect what your paper is about. A title is your first chance to grab your reader's attention, so don't miss out on that. Proofread your narrative for grammatical errors, clarity, and coherence. We actually have Grammarly, the premium edition. Most of you signed up. A lot of you didn't. You didn't even bother to respond to the announcement. So you're really missing out. And I don't know if there are any spaces left, but you really should get on that. That was in one of the announcements. So you need to really email me, reach out to me. But I can tell you a lot of the spaces have been taken by other courses. So then you're going to submit your assignment as a Word document or PDF file following the specified word count and formatting guidelines. But the word count is actually 3 pages. I don't really do word counts anymore because students actually like to go in and put blank words or white words like just gibberish so it looks like you've met the word count when actually you haven't. You just put in gibberish words in white thinking we will not notice. Let me just go ahead and take that word count out. Whoops. This is going to take forever, but anyway. Double space point. Let's see. Double space, word clarity and coherence. The specified number of pages and formatting guidelines. Okay. So let's just save that, and there you go. So it needs to be page numbers. And the reason we use MLA format is not to just like make your life miserable, but that is sort of like the universal level and the type of writing we do for all assignments at the college level. So tomorrow you could go to Harvard, you could go to UPenn, you could go to the University of North Texas, TWU, and if someone says in their class we're going to be using MLA format, which is usually what is used for the humanities, which humanities would be English, literature, writing, anything like that, sometimes government and history. Some of those classes will require that you use APA format, so you need to make sure you are using the correct format because there are differences, okay? I think to truly understand literacy, we need to look at the 2 different types of literacy. There's a classic definition, which kind of has to do with that original definition I gave you that just sort of focuses on reading and writing. In the traditional sense, it typically focuses on, if you choose this one, it's fine. Again, here's these words again. Pivotal moments, challenges, and revelations related to literacy development. Maybe from your early childhood experiences with books, storytelling, to formal education and beyond. Classic literacy narratives often emphasize the important literacy in shaping your identity, your intellect, and your personal growth. Those are just a very classic definition of literacy. A more modern definition of literacy, in a more contemporary context, a literacy narrative extends beyond traditional notions of reading and writing to encompass a broader range of literacy practices and experiences. We're all very much a digital world. We read on Kindles, we listen to Audible books, we listen to videos, that sort of thing. All of that, I think, should be considered literacy. This modern interpretation acknowledges the diverse ways individuals engage with language communication. Excuse me, had the hiccups. Engage with language, communication, and media in today's digital age. A modern literacy narrative may explore reading and writing skills and digital, visual, media, multilingualism, and other forms of literacy relevant to contemporary society. It reflects the dynamic nature of literacy in an increasingly interconnected and technologically driven world, emphasizing the importance of critical thinking, communication skills, and adaptability in navigating diverse literate environments. I think one thing, though, about this diverse world where we get a lot of our information from YouTube or social media or wherever, you also have to be able to know how to analyze something and use your critical thinking skills and think, is this BS? Is this something that's really valid? Is it unbiased? You have to be able to analyze your sources. Are they correct? Are they right? Or are they just trying to feed you a line of stuff to get you to click? So you have to be careful with that. So I have a step-by-step list of what you need to do first. Number 1, number 2, number 3. So the first thing you need to do is choose a topic. Here are some, and then I go into details. Favorite book, childhood literacy. Discuss the books that significantly impacted your childhood and early literacy development. Explain how these stories shaped your love for reading and storytelling. Writing as a form of expression. Educational milestones. Literacy influences in family or community. And then I go through and I list everything. This one is pretty powerful, the power of storytelling through oral tradition. This means that maybe you have an older relative in your family that you hear stories about. My husband's grandfather was a prisoner of war. They fought Hitler, and his plane crashed into the forest, and the family that caught them turned them over to Hitler's regime, and he spent 2 years as a prisoner of war. And so he has told us so many stories that we have recorded, that we have written down, but it's through his oral storytelling that we've been able to capture that part of his life. So if you want to share something about oral tradition and storytelling in your family and how important that is, that would be incredible. And these are just other things you can talk about. Some people I know maybe speak one language at home and another language at school, so it's kind of hard to balance those two worlds. Maybe you can talk about your experience with that. These are all sort of classic examples, but also here is a list of things that you can look at. I know some of you have already started this as well. One of you talked about your experience of playing piano, which is genius, because don't you read music? Isn't that a type of literacy? You are reading notes, which is the same as words. Because music itself can tell a story if you think about it. Have you ever listened to a soundtrack to a movie? Like, I know some of you might be too young, but the film Titanic, once you watch the film Titanic with Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio, if you watch that film and then you go and then you listen to the soundtrack, the music demonstrates what's happening in the story. Like the music mimics ice breaking, steel ripping and crunching, and the silence as the Titanic is submersed under the water. It's just a beautiful soundtrack. So music can truly tell stories as well. So this is more modern things you can talk about. Here's some traditional again. I gave you a ton of examples, and then I give you things in here to look at. So be sure you look at all these. Here's some more music as literacy narratives. There's some excellent things in here. Music and social change. If you look at the hip hop community and how they brought about social change, rap, whatever, I think there are some incredible things you could discuss here. I had a student one semester, actually was last semester, that talked about this idea of rap and hip hop and social change and equality. And he talked about how people prejudge rap artists or people in the music industry, and stereotype them. But it's really just the rhythm and the beats and the language. It's just very complicated. It's very detailed. It takes, especially it takes talent. Anyway, so I think these are all things you can think about writing. Active listening skills, understanding nonverbal communication, people that communicate through sign language, music as a language of listening across cultures, multilingual communities. I think that's pretty cool. Visual literacy narratives, visual storytelling, visual arts and creativity. There are certain ballets and certain dance, I guess you would say dance numbers, whatever you want to call it, a dance routine, that actually tells stories. The movement mimics things that are going on. There's this incredible dance that you can find it anywhere on YouTube, but it's a scene about domestic violence, and the dance moves indicate this, and they tell a story through their body and their movement, which is pretty incredible. So this is other ways you can look at social media and your online identity. What is critical literacy in a digital age? One thing that is super impressive about most of you in the younger generation, you have this incredible technological literacy, if you will. You know everything about technology. You know how to do things. But what you are lacking a little bit is your critical thinking skills and your literacy in a digital age. Most of you don't even consider, is something real? Where did it come from? So this is something to think about. Think about, if you want to look at something in social media, think about the movements that have literally transformed the world. And would they have been so significant had we not had social media? Look at Black Lives Matter. Look at the hashtag Me Too movement. Think about the literacy of hashtags. I mean, how incredible would that be to write about? Those have changed the way we communicate about everything. That would be a cool paper to write about. Let's see. All of this stuff here, gender and literacy, anyway, so those are a ton of different ideas you could think about writing. So make sure you're clicking on the links. Your next step after you have picked your topic is to go in here and you can write your thesis and introduction. So basically, this next step is to begin your narrative with an engaging introduction that sets the stage for exploring literacy. Consider incorporating a hook or an anecdote, and an anecdote is just a story, to captivate the reader's attention and establish the tone for your narrative. You want to ensure you have a clear thesis statement, including, again, here are these words. Do you see this? That will be addressed in your essay. Everyone should somehow have key moments, challenges, and revelations in your thesis statement. And if you do not, you are not following the instructions for this assignment, okay? Here's a perfect example. This is someone's thesis statement. Now, you don't just need a thesis statement for your introduction. You need something to introduce it, but let's just look at this thesis statement. In my literacy journey, pivotal moments, such as story time with my mother, allowed me to address significant challenges and my struggles with dyslexia. These revelations sparked the discovery of graphic novels and have collectively shaped my understanding and appreciation of reading and writing, transforming them from daunting tasks to sources of joy and empowerment. So, I showed you the thesis statement, and it's okay if your thesis statement starts out one way and it's called, in our rough draft, it's called a working thesis statement, because sometimes you change it as you write and learn more. Then let's look at the sample narrative that uses this exact thesis statement, okay? So let me pull this up for you. Oh, it's pulling up all my stuff here. Good grief. Okay, let's just look at this one. Wait, it's not even showing on the screen yet. So let me pull it up here. Okay, here we go. So you see, this is another example. I gave you this model, and this is MOA format. Your last name and page number, this, and this is how your date is supposed to be. It needs to be in this order. You notice things are double-spaced. Bedtime stories, seeds of a lifelong love for stories. I do like this because it's like a two-part title. So let me read you just this introduction, and you'll notice that they're going to still use all, and there's the thesis statement right here, but here's how they introduced it. My earliest memories of literacy are deeply intertwined with my grandmother's bedtime stories. Every night she would sit by my bed, a book in hand, her voice weaving magic with every word. These stories were more than just a bedtime ritual. They were the seeds of my imagination, planting within me a love for storytelling. She had an enchanting way of bringing characters to life, her tone changing to match each character's mood and personality. Her stories transported me to far-off lands, introducing me to heroes, villains, fairies, and dragons. In my literacy journey, pivotal moments such as my grandmother's bedtime stories, significant challenges including my struggle with dyslexia, and profound revelations sparked my discovery of graphic novels, have collectively shaped my understanding and appreciation of reading and writing, transforming them from daunting tasks into sources of joy and empowerment. What I love about this introduction is they made very intentional choices with words. They use words like weaving and magic. You know, weaving and magic, that makes us think of heroes, villains, fairies, and dragons, and magic, and this idea. I also love this idea of planting and seeds, and they use certain things in here. Anyway, I think it's an incredible beginning. So you see, so this first section now is going to talk about what? If you notice, here is the thesis statement. And they have these three things. They have significant challenges, profound revelations, and let's see, what did I say here? Spark, and understanding and appreciation of reading and writing, transforming them from daunting tasks into sources of joy and empowerment. So the revelations that came from that, you see all of those things are mentioned. Those three things are now going to be addressed in that order, from least to most important. The revelations are the most important thing. So the first thing you're going to read about is pivotal moments. The next thing you're going to write about is your significant challenge. And then the next thing will be profound revelations, okay? So you see here, this is where we talk about pivotal moments, like this reading of the Velveteen Rabbit. Listen to this. One night she read me The Velveteen Rabbit, a story about a toy rabbit's desire to become real through the love of his owner. As I read, I felt the rabbit's longing and the boy's affection. The emotions were so palpable that I cried when the rabbit was almost discarded. The emotional connection to a story was my first realization of the power of words. The student is talking about how reading that story evoked an emotional response in them. Can you think of any type of stories that have done that you have read, or anything like that? Through my grandmother's stories, I learned that books were not just objects with words, but gateways to entire worlds capable of evoking deep emotion and sparking imagination. So they're talking about those pivotal moments, and it was a pivotal moment that story, when the rabbit was about to be discarded, made the student cry. So I think that's pretty magical. The next thing is here again. We're going to go to the next one. As I grew older, my love for stories was met with significant challenges. With a significant challenge, dyslexia. In the first grade, I struggled to keep up with my peers in reading and writing. Words on the page seemed to jumble together, making reading a frustrating and often humiliating experience. My self-esteem took a hit every time I stumbled over words or failed to spell correctly. The anxiety of classroom reading sessions overshadowed the joy I once felt during story time with my grandmother. So then you're talking about, they had this marvelous revelation, but then because of this learning challenge, it's sort of definitely caused problems. Despite these challenges, I was determined not to let dyslexia define me. My parents played a crucial role in this. They sought resources and support, enrolling me in special reading programs and working with me on reading strategies at home. One particular tutor, Mrs. Thompson, made a significant impact. She introduced me to the Orton Gillingham approach. This is kind of a little bit too in-depth. I don't know that you need to say this. Through her patience and innovative teaching methods, I began to see progress. Slowly but surely, reading became less of a chore and more of an achievable goal. I found solace in audiobooks. And this allowed the reader to enjoy stories without the stress of having to decipher the text. I am 100% an advocate of audible books are the same exact thing as reading. You are just listening. I am a huge proponent. I go through so many audiobooks a month. It's probably embarrassing. So the most profound revelation in my literacy journey came when I discovered graphic novels. And then they go through to talk about this. What I love about this essay is they use actual stories, like the Velveteen Rabbit. I kind of would have liked, it would have been really cool, maybe they could have included a quote from that story. Or maybe in this one, they could have even included an image if they wanted to. That would be pretty amazing, would it not? So anyway, then it talks about them going into these other graphic novels, and then it kind of starts wrapping up. These three elements, my grandmother's bedtime stories, the challenges of dyslexia, and the revelations brought by graphic novels, have collectively transformed my literacy journey. My grandmother's stories instilled a deep love for storytelling, showing me the emotional power of words. The struggle with dyslexia taught me resilience and the importance of finding alternative pathways to learning. And sometimes it takes finding a good instructor or teacher that will work with you on finding those pathways. Discovering graphic novels revealed new possibilities for engaging with text, transforming reading from a daunting task to a source of joy. And then they kind of just talk about how their life has ended up, right? Today, I'm an avid reader and a passionate writer. I approach reading with a sense of curiosity and excitement, always eager to explore new worlds and ideas. Writing has become a tool for self-expression and communication, allowing me to share my thoughts and stories with others. The challenges I faced with dyslexia have given me a unique perspective on learning and literacy, one that I use to advocate for diverse learning methods and resources for others who face similar struggles. My literacy journey has been one of transformation and empowerment. It has taught me that the path to literacy is not always straightforward. However, with perseverance, creativity, and support, it is possible to overcome these. And then the journey has shaped who I am today, turning what was once daunting into passions that continue to enrich my life. I think this is an incredible story that talks about the ups and the downs and the problems. I don't expect yours to be this detailed, but do you see how they go back to these words? Pivotal moments, significant challenges, profound revelations. That's what I'm wanting you to continue to focus on in your story, right? So you can see the thesis statement. So then in your discussion sections 1, 2, and 3, then develop 3 main points highlighting key moments, challenges, and revelations. Each main point examines a specific aspect of your relationship with language and literacy, and then it just goes here. Then your step 4 is your 4th part. Conclude your narrative with a reflective conclusion that reinforces the significance of literacy in your life, whatever literacy you choose. Just like we talked about, I had a student write about hip-hop and the role that hip-hop and rap did to facilitate change in their community. And you always want to be sure and restate your thesis in your conclusion. I want to talk about as well, there are times in your writing that your thesis always needs to be in the forefront. So you can do this if you want to. You can call it a 5-part essay or a 5-paragraph essay. 5-paragraph means you have an introduction with the thesis. You have a paragraph number 2 that discusses pivotal moments. You have a paragraph number 3 that talks about significant challenges, and a paragraph number 4 that talks about revelations, and a 5th paragraph talks about your conclusion. Sometimes you've got that beautiful thread running all through your paper, and sometimes your introduction and conclusion, there should be such a connection that they're almost interchangeable, and it wouldn't change the story up so much. Sometimes I read your essays and I'm like, whoa, they're not even concluding with what they've talked about at the top. So make sure you're kind of thinking of that all the way through, okay? I would go through and read the student model, see what they're doing. And I cannot express enough. Watch these stories. They're so incredible. Ray Bradbury is so cute. He wrote Fahrenheit 451. He's no longer with us. This one, Tobias Wolff, is an incredible writer. He talked about how he lied and to get into boarding school because he came from a really difficult home life. Anyway, Leonardo DiCaprio filmed a movie about his life. So these are all incredible videos, and I think you will feel inspired, and I really encourage you to watch them. And if anything, it will give you inspiration. You will feel not so alone in your journey with reading and writing. And I just can't ask you enough to really engage with this material, pay attention to the things I've posted, and take your time to watch them. And you know what? All of this may not click just right now at this moment in your life. But I promise you, even a year or two down the road, you might be like, oh my gosh, that's what Professor Smart meant. And now I get the meaning of that. So I encourage you to engage with this course, to pay attention. So let me go here to now our next page. I'll come back to the Freedom Writers Journal in a minute. And we're going to go to the Literacy Narrative Rough Draft. So while your entire paper should be a minimum of 3 pages, for this assignment, I only need you to submit 2 pages. If you end up submitting the whole thing, that's fine with me. I don't care. Oh, boom, look, 4 people have submitted theirs. I don't expect it to be perfect. However, the more time you put into your essay, the better off you will be when completing your final draft. This is going to have to be submitted with a Word doc file or PDF. That's just all there is to it. So be sure you submit that, and I'll try to get to these ASAP so you can have some feedback from me, okay? Let me see here. So this journal submission, you know, each thing we're going to have a lesson. This is an incredible, incredible film. After you watch the Freedom Writers, well, and I know some of you don't have the whole film, so I've given you like 11 little video clips here. We watched them in my class last Thursday, and we watched every single video clip. But what I would recommend doing is, I give you all the assignment instructions, I lay everything out, but what I would do first is, what am I asking you to write about? This is what I'm asking you to write about. How does writing serve as a tool for empowerment and self-discovery for the students and Freedom Writers? And then I give you examples of what to talk about, what to do. Go through and read the assignment first, and what I'm looking for, you're going to have to talk about every single one of these things, okay? And then while you're watching the videos, you can take down specific information, all right? Let's go up here. And I am going to say, some of you have already submitted it. Again, I don't mind if you write more, but I always think a good rule of thumb is 150 words. to shoot for. Actually, 250 is better, but anyway, you can always write more as well. So I would kind of like you to keep that in mind, but don't just rush through these. One thing I'm going to have an issue with on these is if you write something that is so generic that you don't even have to watch the videos to write. So if you wrote something about Erin Gruwell believed in her students and she changed their life and now they are writers and went on to college. Well, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to give you credit for that. I want you to make specific references to these video clips. I'm not about writing that is so generic and so unspecific that literally anyone can write it in 2 seconds without watching any of this. My belief is that you signed up for a college class for whatever reason, and you might hate the work. You might hate English and hate writing, but you know what? You have an end game. You have an end game of becoming a nurse or becoming a construction manager, or you're going to be in radiology technology or whatever. There's a million and one things you're going to be doing. And these are the steps you need to get there. While you may hate all of these classes, we're giving you a rounded education. These things are going to make you better workers, better ways to engage with other people, ways to show compassion and have empathy for people you treat or people in your community. Anyway, so I really want you to engage with this material. And I know I've said it over and over and over again, but I really want you to. I talked for almost 37 minutes, but I think you deserve as much engagement as someone who has a course, who is in a face-to-face class. So make sure you're listening and you're taking notes about what I'm saying. So anyway, as always, feel free to reach out to me if you have questions. I'm always happy to help. Thank you.